So we are live.
Okay, let me put the slideshow. Can you see the slides?
We see them at least.
Yeah, awesome. Still?
Yes, welcome to
Just
Low Code
checking.
Mini-Series.
Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, so welcome everyone. Today we are having another session of our low code mini series, and it's basically a series of events where you discover what low code is, but also what are the career opportunities within this job market. So this mini series is tailored for someone who is, for example, looking for a career switch towards tech, or maybe you have just graduated and you are looking for some job opportunities within tech. We launched this mini series in June, and we did our first session in June, and this month we actually have two different sessions with OutSystems about low code, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Now I will go to the next slide. So who is guiding you through this presentation from the Women in Tech side? So my name is Esther, and together with Christina, we are organizing the low code mini-series. I'm a tech director at Women in Tech Netherlands, and I started as a low code developer in robotic process automation, or RPA. And recently I made a career switch to software testing. Software testing is also a great career path because more and more testing is done through low code as well. And we're always looking for new people, so don't hesitate to reach out on LinkedIn, for example. And Christina is an entrepreneurial director at Women in Tech Netherlands, an important role within Women in Tech in general. She has actually just finished hosting another Women in Tech event, so we're pretty busy. The event was Passion and Technology. She's a project engineer at McCall, and together we shaped this low code mini-series for you. You also might be wondering what we do within Women in Tech. So we are an international organization. We have 30 formal chapters in 30 different countries. Our goal is to educate women and girls with the necessary skills to success in a STEM study or career. And I think that this mini-series, this low code workshops, meet this goal quite perfectly. Our mission is centered around 5 different United Nations SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. For example, gender equality or science, tech, and innovation. A few numbers about Women in Tech. We have quite a few members across different Women in Tech chapters. We have more than 300 team members and advisory board members. We run programs for a good cause, such as donating computers to underprivileged students in India and South Africa. And overall, there are dozens of thousands of people around the world who are actually involved with Women in Tech. And we have one thing in common, and that is to empower 5 million women and girls by 2030. Our Dutch chapter is organized also according to the United Nations SDGs. Each goal has its own mission and own concrete action. So, for example, last week I kicked off our 4th edition of Role Models Masterclass, where you can gain new skills and also get inspired by power women over the course of 4 months. Next edition is in October, so you still have time to join us. At the core of our mission, there is, of course, gender equality. And of course, there is still a lot of work for all of us to do in that matter, especially since the corona crisis has made gender inequality even worse. But we're motivated to close the gap step by step, and hopefully tonight you'll help us with that a bit as well. Maybe you're also wondering how our team here at Women in Tech Netherlands looks like. So we have our board, we have our media team, and we're again structured according to the United Nations SDGs. So overall, there are a lot of power women within our tribe, for sure. One good tip for you is to check out our Women in Tech platform. Here you can, for example, network with people from tech. There are job opportunities to check out, and you can also follow what we do as a Dutch chapter there, so womenintech.net. And before I introduce the speakers of tonight's session, and they will tell you all about what low-code is, I'd like to take a moment to actually explain why we are doing this mini-series in the first place. And I like numbers, I like facts in general, so let's take a look at a couple of them. So for example, by 2025, organizations will build 70% of their new applications using low-code platforms. This is up from less than 25% in 2020. What does that mean? What we've seen already is that there is a huge market boom of low-code application development platforms or low-code automated testing platforms. And this will definitely continue even more in the upcoming years. Another fact is that a quarter of low-code developer community have no background experience in code. And that means that learning low-code is accessible. There are a lot of free online resources to where you can learn low-code, and that's a major advantage, especially for minorities that have been excluded from tech until now, pretty much. And speaking from my experience, I don't have a degree in IT. My degree is actually in marketing and business development. And it's not that I was like discouraged to go and study IT, but I also wasn't really encouraged to pursue that. And I think that a lot of like femme presenting people can relate to that, unfortunately. But that's why low-code is so great, because you definitely don't need a degree in IT. And luckily, it doesn't take years to master it, really, just a few weeks or months. And last but not least, lack of available tech talent is the number one obstacle keeping CIOs globally from achieving their objectives. There is simply a huge shortage in tech talent in general everywhere. Companies definitely still struggle to hire new tech talent. And again, this is a great opportunity for you to step in and, start a career in tech. Without further ado, let me present to you the speakers, Marleen and Sejan. So Marleen is a solution architect at OutSystems since 2018. In her career, she focuses on modern app development while paying special focus to quality and security of the application. And her aim is to create more value in less time without making a mess. Sejan is also a solution architect at OutSystems, and there she also focuses on low-code development. And her aim is to reduce shadow IT and to reduce technical debt. And she was a Thought Leader of the Year 2021 at OutSystems. So Marleen and Sejan, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Esther. Let me also share my screen so we can. I think you are seeing my screen now. So
Yes.
Esther already did a very good introduction of who we are. So the both of Sejan and myself, we are both solution architects in OutSystems. So that is one of the career paths we'll be discussing today. That is basically what we do, is we help our prospects and customers to understand what is possible with the technology that the company that we work for delivers. And the company that we work for delivers a low-code platform, which is OutSystems. I do have a degree in STEM, but not in IT itself. So that's also in kind of a move. And I think generally, if you are motivated and if you have a, let's say, good set of brains, then you can learn this for sure. And I hope that today will be a first introduction in convincing you about that. So I will first give a bit of an introduction about OutSystems. It will be quite short, but it will give you a bit of a view in what you can do with OutSystems, or in, but also with low code in general. Then we will dive a bit deeper into the community, so the people that work with OutSystems, but also your career opportunities. And then we're actually going for the real fun. Then Cezin is going to take over, and she's going to build an application from scratch, and you guys can test it. So we will see if she does everything correctly today. Then we will discuss some other sessions that we have if you want to learn further. Today is really an introduction. So don't expect, after these 1.5 hours that you're a certified developer. There's a few steps that you need to take before that. And we will discuss some of the possibilities if you're interested in that. And we expect that there will be some time for Q&A. So please just put them in the chat. I think Esther is keeping an eye on them. And then we can address your questions as well. Very happy that you're all here. And of course, we hope to win some hearts, because there's a lot of opportunity in IT, and also especially in OutSystems, and we can use all the talent that's out there. So as an introduction to OutSystems as a company, so OutSystems is a company, we call it OutSystems, but the product that we have is also called OutSystems. So it's a platform, and it's basically a development language, but it's a low-code development language, and that means that you do not have to type all the code, but you're basically visually creating applications. We have a worldwide footprint, so it's being used all over the world. It's industry agnostic, which means that you can apply OutSystems either in retail or in banking. That doesn't matter. It's just a way to create applications. We have partners that help us implementing OutSystems, that help customers actually to get the real value. That, for example, give experts to customers to create applications, or to actually give guidance on how to create applications. More than 350 in the world. And then one number that we're pretty proud of, that's the number of community members that we have, and it's more than 600,000. And a community member in OutSystems, that is somebody who has, let's say, developed in OutSystems. And today we hope that maybe we can make you enthusiastic to also become part of this pretty amazing community. So what do we call it? We call it a modern application platform. So it's a more modern way in creating applications than, for example, we sometimes say traditional or high coding, really, typing all the things. And what can you do with it? Well, basically, you can create applications at a much faster speed, because you don't need to type all that code. There's a lot of standardization. There's a lot of boring things that are basically already done for you. If Cezin will show you, she can build an app in half an hour if you ask her. But it's not just the app from scratch that she will do. That she will do for today, she will actually. But suppose that you're using these applications for years and years, then you usually want to change, or you need to change, because the expectations of the business change, maybe some regulations change, so you need to be able to keep changing that application. And OutSystems actually gives you the capability to keep changing on the long run. And we do that by providing some capabilities that make it easier for you to maintain applications and to maintain a big and complex application landscape. And that is usually what addresses some challenges that companies have. And that's why we also say you can actually create serious applications with OutSystems, not just simple apps. Today we'll do a simple app, but you can also do the real core complex systems of a company. Because what we see is that companies sometimes struggle with that. And we give you a number of capabilities that actually help you in maintaining that. So what we see is it's abstracting away the coding layer. So it usually it speaks to developers or to people who are really passionate about delivering functionality, delivering business value, and they find that more interesting than writing all the code. So if you really want to make a difference, then OutSystems is a good platform for you. So what does it look like? Well, Cezanne is going to show you all of that, but in this slide, you already see the IDE. So the IDE is the environment where people make applications. And as you can see, it's all visual. There's no handwritten code there. What you can also see is that actually it's a full stack environment. This means that somebody creates the data model here, somebody creates the logic here, but somebody also creates the screens here and the APIs. So you can do all of this in this IDE, and it's usually the same developer that does this. Where in traditional coding, it's very common that somebody specializes in data models and somebody else specializes in the front end, and somebody else specializes in business processes. So you need a lot more different skills. Where in OutSystems, because it's much easier to learn, many developers are actually full stack developers and can deliver the whole experience, the entire application. And that is actually also very valuable for companies, because then they don't need those many different skills from those many different people that are not that easy to find. So what can you build with it? Well, there's lots of things you can build with it, but we mentioned here a few. So first is the user experiences. That is, for example, I call a banking app. That would be a typical user experience app. But it could also be any type of app that you're using basically on your phone, or that is really focused to the end user. But then you also got a lot of processes, for example, in companies, maybe manufacturing companies, and they want to trigger some maintenance tasks to start. And that happens through processes, and they can need some automation that you can do in OutSystems as well. And then what many companies struggle with is legacy. So these are old software systems that are very hard to change, and people don't always dare to change them because you don't know if I change it, what's gonna actually happen. What system may break if I change this little radar here. And so that's why companies, they want to modernize that, and they want to make steps in that, and OutSystems can really play a role in that as well. We got the employee experience. It's kind of similar to the user experience, but then it's focused on internal applications for employees. For example, if you work at a call center, that you got a good application, that you got all information from the customer in one screen, that would be a typical employee experience. Or maybe if you're doing if you're a doctor and you need to register what you're giving to the patient, then you need a good and user-friendly application for that. That would also be an employee experience application. Multi-device, so you can actually create web applications that you use in your browser, on your screen, on your desktop, but also mobile applications that you can use on your tablet or your mobile phone. Today we'll be doing a mobile application. Workflow, that is typically something that requires some approval and maybe some where it's important that you keep all the data. So for example, if you have a certain amount of steps, suppose you get a contract and it needs to be approved by 3 people, but you also need to know who approved it and when. That is typically a workflow situation that you can build in OutSystems as well. What's very important as well is to be able to integrate with other systems, because many companies, they already have a lot of software, and we can build more software next to that. However, sorry, I was reading the chat for there. You can build more software next to that. However, if you want to bring the real value, then you actually usually you need, for example, some data from another application, or you don't want to duplicate that. So you need to be able to integrate with it, and that is an important capability of OutSystems as well. And with all of that, what quite often the goal is for companies is to become more efficient. Become more efficient for your users so that you can actually handle their questions or their complaints faster, or their requests, or become more efficient internally so that, well, in this time when it's hard to find the right people, you can actually be faster or do the same thing with less people, for example. So this is more of the business story, the functional story. So technically, what can you do with it? Well, with OutSystems, you can create web applications and mobile applications. And those mobile applications can be used either as a native app. So that means either on your phone, you can open as an install app, as an installed app. You can get it from the Android or the iOS store, or you can use them as progressive web apps. You can also create APIs. APIs are a way how technology systems communicate with each other. So that's really something, if you create an API, then another system can consume your data or your information from that API. So that's, let's say, a standard way for technologies to talk with each other, and you can create that in OutSystems as well. The same goes for web services and integrations. But you can also, for example, create a chatbot, or include some voice or video, or automate that some emails or SMSs will be sent. So you can create those flows as well. Then there are a number of things that you do not do directly in OutSystems, but that you can integrate with. For example, IoT, this is Internet of Things. So for example, if you have a sensor where you read the temperature in the room, you can actually integrate with the API of that sensor, and then you can make that data available in an application, in a dashboard, to, for example, monitor it, or to also include some actions if it's not good, if it's too high or too low. Things like AI and machine learning algorithms, those things you can also include. Same goes for RPA. We recently started a new partnership with a big RPA company where we combine the powers of these technologies. So OutSystems is often also, let's say, a hub where you can make an application, really a front end to existing technologies, where you can enable enable those technologies to really show their value within applications that you can create in OutSystems. Well, is this something for you? Well, I hope it's, of course, a question for you, but for who is this interesting? Well, for example, if you already work in IT, but you see that for certain things you're still looking for a new solution, then this might be interesting. Maybe you're already working in IT and you see things that things are not being productive enough, that the backlog, the things that people ask from you, is much higher than your team can deliver. It's a typical problem because it's not that easy to create applications at a good speed. Maybe you are working with a lot of old technology and you're getting a bit stuck there because nobody dares to touch the thing because you never know what you're going to break, and that's a real risk. So you need to modernize. So that is when you're already in IT. But what may also be the case is that maybe you're looking for a new challenge. And well, low-code is a quite booming market, so there's a lot of job opportunities there, both for people already in IT, but especially also for people outside of IT, because well, we need more people in. That's a simple rule, and we hope we can find some. So suppose that you're interested in joining a career in OutSystems. It's quite good to know that there's a big community of people that are actually already doing OutSystems and that are very active in sharing knowledge, and that can also help you when you are starting. So as mentioned, worldwide we have more than 600,000 community members, and they gather in multiple ways. So for example, there's a forum. So whenever I have a question, I usually Google it first, and then I see, oh, somebody asked it on the forum, and then I can find the answer there. People actually are quite active there, so you can find answers. There's the Forge. The Forge is an open source library where everybody can put in their code that they have already created. So if you want to develop something and you don't know exactly how to do it, you can actually go to the Forge, see if somebody else already did it, and that may help. There's also the Ideas platform. If you have a good suggestion on how we can improve our platform, you can just put it in there and people can vote for it. And in that way, you can actually influence the product roadmap of the OutSystems platform. 600,000, that of course sounds like a huge number. So how are you going to find somebody to help? Well, we actually have some people that are quite visible in this community that really that work to be visible, for example, by writing blog posts or by helping people on the forums or by speaking in meetups. They are making a good profile for themselves within the OutSystems community. We call them champions, or we also have an MVP program for the most valuable people, I think it stands for. And they can help you, but also suppose that you want to become a visible person, really show the world, or get visible, make a good CV for it. These are programs that you can join, and it's not inaccessible. Actually, also for new people we are interested, you can join those programs just by being active and by being an active member of the community and contributing to it. All training in OutSystems is for free, so you can find that online. We have a number of certifications. So there's let's say, a basic certification that you can get after the basic training. That's a starting point to do OutSystems development, but you can really grow your career and, for example, go for specialization. So, for example, you may be the security specialist, or you may be the front-end specialist, or the operations specialist, or maybe the architecture specialist. And so there's different certifications for that as well. So you can really, let's say, find your passion in it, and also show to your job market that you have that passion by showing the certifications. Not just the passion, also the skills. The community meets up locally. So both Cezin and myself, we are based in the Netherlands. We work for Northern Europe, and in the Netherlands, I think there's a number of meetup groups with only OutSystems, mainly OutSystems developers, where the community just come together and they share knowledge, they share experiences, they have open discussions. There's an annual development conference also that you can join. And I mentioned the Netherlands, but this is actually happening all over the world. So it's a nice group to join. So what can you do? Well, the developer path is, I would say, what people think of first. But there's actually much more other solutions. So for a developer, well, you can develop and you're not limited in what you can create. It's very advanced, so it's interesting career. However, for example, Cezin and myself, we are solution architects. So in the picture, we see ourselves, let's say, in the middle, and we actually go to customers and we think with the customer, okay, how can we best apply OutSystems? What will be a good architecture for you? Well, we don't usually really develop it. Today, Cezin will do that, but that's not our standard job. But there's also tech leads that, for example, guide the developers in following best practices, but are not always into all the details. Or somebody is in DevOps who's more focused on, okay, what application should be on what service, how can we make this go right? Testing, of course, is also important. Esther mentioned he's working for the testing company. Well, if we want to deliver good software, it's very important to that is tested well. And that is the same for OutSystems applications or any other applications. Some people are specialized in front end or maybe in designing a good user experience. If you find that interesting, well, that's important as well. Or you could be a product owner. That means that you have the vision for the product, but you're not going to develop it in all detail. You're more thinking about what should the product do, what is important for which stakeholders. So we say, well, there's something for everyone. There's many roles. And actually the list on this screen, it's not the complete list because we can go on and on. You could be a business analyst. You could be a project manager. There's much more to this than where you can be involved in line with what you find interesting yourself. So that was a brief introduction of OutSystems and the career opportunities. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I think we can come back to that by the end of this session. For now, we're going to see some work in action. So Cezin will be given a demo. I think we stopped sharing my screen where we should still be seeing my screen for just a bit more. Thank you. I will be briefly introducing the demo and then we will go to Cezin. So what Cezin will be showing is a demo of the creation of an application. I think there's a delay in screen sharing now. Yeah. Mind that this demo, it's not the introductionary demo in the sense that we expect that after Cezin has shown you this, you can actually do the exact same thing. It's more of a demo where you can see, okay, if I have worked with this tool for some time, then this is what I can achieve. If you really want to learn how to use the platform, we have another session in 2 weeks, but there's also some other things that I will come back to after the demo. Of course, we will try to explain every step that she's doing, but Cezin can be pretty fast, and it's not, let's say, your first demo to do. So what we will be doing, which will be giving an example of an application. So suppose, for example, we noticed during these times, it's almost getting winter in certain parts of the world, and people are not living very healthy. So we wanted to create an application that actually encouraged some healthy behavior. And what we will do is we will create such an application that where people can create an account, and every day you can send a challenge for healthy behavior to the people. We do some gamification with points in the leaderboard, and actually everybody in this group who's joining tonight can join this challenge. And we will create a mobile app for that. So first, what Cezin will do is she will create a login flow so that people can create an account. So you will do that using templates. Templates are pre-built blocks that actually accelerate the development. Then she will implement a challenge, and you guys may actually pick what challenge that will be. I will put the link in the chat shortly, but you can pick between 2 challenges. One is the calorie challenge, which where we will show you a number of food items, and then you need to judge whether it's less or more than 150 calories. Or the picture challenge, where you can post a picture of yourself doing an exercise. And if you have, if you have the answer right, or if you post a picture, you get points. And then Cezanne will also implement the leaderboard, where we can see who got the most points. And we're all going to do that live. So we start from nothing, and within, let's say, approximately half an hour, maybe a bit more, we should have this up. Oh. I will put this link in the chat. That is a poll. Oh, sorry. That is a poll where you can vote, but you can do that during Cezanne's demo as well. And now I will indeed stop sharing my screen, and Cezanne will be starting the demo.
Thank you for the handover, Marleen. And hello, everyone. Let me quickly introduce myself and my background as well. My name is Cezanne de Bruin, and I studied actually business administration. So developing is also not for me my first, it's not what I was educated for, and it's also not my full-time job. But I think that I nevertheless can manage to build the application as desired. Once we have my screen back onto the screen. There we go, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an application here in Service Studio. I'm going to try to build a lot in a short amount of time, so Marleen will be helping me by, providing you some insight around what I'm actually doing, so that I can focus on clicking around, basically. So we're going to start off with creating a new application in the environment. And I'm going to be building a mobile application. And because this is more fun if we do it from scratch, I'm going to do it from scratch. I'm going to start with selecting a logo and giving a name. And this will also give some theming for the application.
What you see says the color of the logo that says it's selected is now used as the basic color for the application that she's going to create. You can actually modify that, but that is default behavior as an accelerator. She then created a module. We actually separate our applications in modules. That's for maintenance purposes. We'll not go too deep into that, but just for your information. And now she has already created a screen, so it's going pretty fast. And what she's now doing is she uses standard template for a login screen, but she's modifying it because in this case, we also want to create some functionality to actually to register yourself in case if you don't have an account yet.
Exactly. So rather than sending you to a login account, what I want to do is send you to a registration screen. And in order to do that, I'm going to use once again a screen template. And for that, I select a new screen, which should give me the screen template. All right, so let me just create a new screen. There we go. That's okay. Let me quickly see what's happening here.
So you can see it's a live demo where we're really doing it. It's not a video. And Cezanne is now creating a new screen. Which, let me see.
All right, well, that's not working completely as expected, but that's all right. That's what we have the ability to think on our feet for. So what I'm going to do instead is make a very ugly login screen. Sorry about that. It will work nevertheless. So that is one of the things about working with a low-code platform. It does give you a lot of room to also be agile and take different approaches.
So you actually now see 2 different approaches. What we first did, she made a screen from a template, and the intention was to do the second screen also from the template. But somehow we didn't get the template, so she's doing it from scratch. So here you see two ways of actually creating a screen, where you just do it from scratch and you put your own fields and your own buttons there. It's all visual, it's drag and drop. Where if you start from a template, it already has some stuff put in there for you. So that's usually a little bit faster, but both of that is possible. And we're now creating a register button. And you can see that Cezanne is just, if you want to make the button wider, she just drags and drops to make it wider. So it's not that you need to do any CSS coding for that. You can actually, if you would want to, if you're good at that, but you really don't need to. And this way it's very intuitive, and you can just actually see what the application will look like. At the same time, she's now building some logic to actually create users. So when somebody clicks the register button, then this logic will be triggered. Now, what will the logic do? It will create a user. We already have by default the users table in the system, and then we also have functions to create or delete or update the information of a user. And Cezanne is using these functions to create the users to make sure that the application actually works. And then she's creating the functionality to log in. And for that, she's using the login action that already existed, because that is also one of the default actions that you have. And then you just need to tell, okay, log in, for example, with these credentials.
So what I need to do in order for this to work is I need to encrypt the password before we're sending it to the server, so that when I check it, it will also get encrypted. So we need to make sure that that works. I'm going to give everyone a default password just to avoid making you guys do extra work. So that's what I'm doing here now. You're actually getting a much more technical demo now. So sometimes things are, lucky, I guess. Wait, how did I type it here? It needs to be the same. I typed it like this.
So usually this was already taken care of in the template. So then you don't need to think about it. But now that we do think about it, you can see, okay, this is also how you can build functionality yourself in case it's not yet pre-done for you, which may happen. And the last step that he's saying is, he said, okay, please go back to this screen after logging in. And this screen at this moment is empty, but Cezanne is going to do something about that. She's going to create some content to that screen. And I think the first thing that you will do is be creating the web block. Is that correct?
Exactly. I will be starting on building a reusable web block. So maybe it's a useful thing to introduce that.
Yes. So what is a web block? I say you create a web block, but the question is, of course, what is that? So when you create a screen, you actually have things on that screen, but you only have them there. But there may be certain components of a screen that you actually want to see in all of the screens. For example, a menu that you want to see in all of your screens so that you can quickly go to another screen. Those are reusable blocks. And in this case, Cezanne will be creating this reusable block for the user points, so that in all of the screens of the application that we are creating, you can always see how many user points you have. So you can see your score there. The benefit of creating this reusable web block is that Cezanne creates it once, she styles it once, she creates the functionality, the logic of how to calculate those points in one place, and she can show it in all of the screens. And she doesn't need to do it. Suppose that you want to change the functionality. Suppose that you want to say, okay, but now you get double points for answers correct, or you get minus points for wrong answers. Then she will just change that in only one place, and it will automatically change in all of the places where this web block is being used. This could also be if she says, well, but now I want it to be red or I want it to be green. You just maintain it in one place and you can use it everywhere. And you'll see later in this demo that it's very useful that she's actually creating this, because we are going to use this web block a lot. In the meantime, what she is doing is she is actually collecting some data to calculate the number of user points. And what we are seeing here for the people that have a bit of IT background is the low-code variant of a query. But instead of having to write the code, she will just say, okay, please use this table for the user points. Please do some calculation. Please add them up together. And then I can use that in a visual way without really writing that code. An expression in this case is just showing the value. So she is now showing, okay, please show the value of plus the word points, so we can see it there. And then let's put some nice image to it.
I need this one. So let me just add it in. And then I'm going to do some layouting just to make things look a little bit nicer.
So within OutSystems, you can make pixel perfect applications. That means that you're never limited when it comes to the layout. We have some editors that you can actually use to make things look better, just in a visual way, like we saw. You can make it wider, you can make the text bold, you can make, say, what it's a corner should be more round. Things like that you can all do in a visual theme editor. However, if you do know CSS, which is a language to actually do those things, you can also just directly add your CSS in the application. And in that way, you can basically do all the styles that you want, because CSS gives you all the opportunity, all the possibilities there. So you're never limited, which is especially important if you, for example, want to create an application, let's say like Facebook, or like a banking app for your end customers. It needs to be user-friendly, it needs to look nice. And here you see Cezanne quickly applied some of that CSS, and you see that it already looks a lot better than it did before. So you're never limited.
All
At
right.
the same time,
this is the moment to go into the voting part of the session, because I'd like to know what I should be building back next. Do we need to build a quiz challenge or a picture challenge?
so
In order
go
to
ahead.
do that, I do have with me the poll IV here on the screen.
So in the chat, there's a URL what you can use. There you can use to vote for the challenge, because we are now ready. We implemented the points, and you can vote whether you want the exercise or the calories challenge. The URL is also in the chat, so don't be shy. We're gonna build with.
All right, so let me tell you in the meantime a little bit about these challenges. What I'm doing in the calories quiz is I'm going to build a challenge for you to guess how many calories there are in a banana, for instance. On the other hand, if we are going for the exercise selfie challenge, what we're going to be doing is actually, take selfies of ourselves while exercising. You don't actually have to be exercising for it to work. We'll just give you points if you take a picture. So I see that we already have some responses coming in, but not so many. So let me check with the people in the chat if everybody's able to access it, just to make sure that we are all seeing the same thing. For those of you who are actually here with a mobile phone, let me just quickly put this on the screen as well. You can utilize the QR code as well to scan and then take an additional vote there as well. So please take a moment to vote here for your regular scheduled programming and demonstration, just to keep things a little bit more interesting. All right, let me in the meantime go back to the results. Look at that, more people are joining in. So it seems that people are able to find the voting link there. So that's good. All right, it looks like people are more willing to check their knowledge on how many calories there are in something than on the selfie challenge. What do you think?
People don't want to exercise tonight, or maybe don't post a selfie in the chat. But let's go for the calorie quiz.
All right, so let's go and build.
It's growing there. So Cezanne already put the card to actually implement the challenge. And what she's gonna do now, let me see, is she is going to build the quiz challenge, and she put already some pictures down that she can use. And now she is going to have to do a few things there. So one of the things would be to give options of what you're going to do. So you can say, okay, it's either less than 150 calories or it's more than 150 calories. She's actually first putting some text, so like, hey, this is the challenge. The question that she's putting there. So how many calories are in a banana?
And of course, a link to actually go and take the quiz.
And she links this to a new screen. So if you click on that, you will actually go to the new screen where Cezanne will implement the challenge. First thing, she's going to put that, you remember that block that she created? She's going to put that in this screen. So no more further developer, just put it in the development. put it in there, and you can see the points that you have already accumulated, that you have already achieved. Now we put some text.
Yeah, I'm going to put in the ability to navigate back and to actually save the score before we build the challenge, because I don't want to forget to actually save the points that people are getting together. So I'm making a local variable to save the points in, and I'm making the UI look a little bit nicer, of course. And then we're going to jump in to building an action in which we're actually saving some data into the database. So I created this data table before, and I'm going to write some information into it.
So whenever you do an action, for example, you say it's less or wrong, what Cezanne is now building is he's actually saving the result of that action and give you points and put those points in the database. And she's saving them immediately on that button. Whenever you leave the screen, it will actually save your points. And after that, it will go back to the previous screen. And now she's going to implement the challenge, and we do that with a pattern that OutSystems UI gives us. OutSystems UI is a set of patterns that you can immediately lose, like for example, stack cards or maybe a carousel. So you don't need to develop that. They come out of the box and you can just use them. And in this case, we're using the pattern where you can swipe left and right if you, for example, think it's less or more calories. And she's filling the data in that template. The template is using some data, and she's filling that with an Excel where we already have the information of the calories of food. So we have foods with calories. And if you're very smart, you're going to look at this data real good, because that will actually give you an advantage during the challenge later. Because you can see the food itself and the calories. So in this case, we will not show all the data, but we will show the picture of the data. And that we have in the database in this case. So she's referring to that. And now she's removing all the other information except for the title or the name of the food item, and the weight, which is of course relevant for the number of calories.
And with that, we have a list of swipeable pictures, but of course we want to then check if you have the right amount of calories inserted into the application. So what I'm going to do now is build some logic to check if you have correctly guessed the amount of calories.
So there's two options. It's either less or more than 150. Of course, it could be exactly 150. We're excluding that this today, but that could be an option. And then you need to build some logic. Okay, what if I swipe it left, or what if I swipe it right? How are we going to determine if that was correct? So now what Cezanne is going to do is he's going to build some logic to determine if you actually got the challenge correct or not. So she's garnering the information from the calories, I think, yes. And that she will be comparing to the 150.
Exactly. So right now what I'm doing is I'm building a small query to say, hey, let's compare this one to the 150. And I always get this wrong. So there's a 50% chance that I'm actually going to give you points when you're wrong and distract points when you're right. But hey, sometimes life is unfair, right? There we go. You get 10 points every time that you have it right, potentially. And we're going to give some feedback as well to you based on what's happening.
So you can see what's the name of that shape? The turnaround square that actually checks if it's more or less than 150 calories. Then you will get the points if it's true, it's correct. If it's less, and Cezanne is now implementing a message that tells you get the points, and you will not get the points. There's no action to give you points, but only a message in case you are wrong, incorrect. So that was a piece of logic that you do when you swipe it left, when you say it's less than 150. And in the next step, Cezanne will actually implement almost the same logic, but the other way around for when it's more than 150. And it's actually the same, yeah. But we just changed that sign, and then it works as well.
And then I, of course, need to make sure to actually connect it to the swiping action itself, because we now have the on left swipe. So let's add the on right swipe. And then I need to, of course, give it information on the current position. And with that, we've implemented the challenge, which leaves me one thing to do, build a leaderboard to see who of you has the best knowledge on calories. And well, no, there's a thing after that as well. I need to also build navigation, to be honest. But other than that, it's what we're pretty much going to be finished. So, please go ahead.
No, Stacey just put again that reusable block there. So if she wouldn't have built that, she had to do all that work 3 times already, but she did it once, so that's pretty smart. And now she added a list, which is again from this OutSystems UI, where she's just showing the users with their points. And there again, here what we have is this OutSystems form of a query where we show what data we want to show, and maybe we can say, okay, we want, for example, the data in combination with something, so the user in combination with the user points. We have that in 2 tables, but we can join them in here. And then we're going to show them in here.
Exactly. So what I, of course, did is I grouped all of the points per user so that we only get each user once. And I then added up all of the points that they got from their different challenges. So one of the good ways to win this challenge is to just play it a lot of times. And then, of course, I sorted it based on the points so that it slides in nicely. And I'm going to add, for just a little bit of bizarre an animation element here, just so that we can get them all to slide in from right to left and make it a little bit nicer in that sense.
So this also comes with OutSystems. It's a bit of an effect that, for example, that you can see it coming in slowly. That could, let's say, in traditional world require some JavaScripting, but actually we have that pre-built, and we can just do that by configuring it versus completely coding it.
So in order to make it look nice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the row number. So if you are number 1, you would have row number 1, right? And if you're number 100, you would have row number 100. And I'm multiplying it by 100 for the delay so that we can basically show people coming in. And then the final thing that I need to do is make it possible for people to actually navigate to that screen, because otherwise it's going to be quite difficult to get to that screen, right?
So Susan's using, again, a UI element here, which is the floating point. So the floating object, so there will be a button that stays always on the bottom of the screen, no matter how you scroll. And in this case, we'll be implementing that either from the leaderboard, you can go to the home screen, or from the home screen, you can go to the leaderboard using that floating button.
Exactly, so I'm going to the home screen, I hope. Yeah, that was the correct screen. And now I'm navigating back. And what you just saw me do was I tested it by actually just clicking on it, and then it behaves as it is, because that is the sort of the benefit of the way that we're building here, is we can very easily just see what it would look like in the screen, and basically that makes it building it all a little bit easier, specifically on the UI element as well. All right, well, we're going to publish all of this, and we're going to see if the improvised registration screen is going to hold up or not. Worst case scenario, I'm going to try that screen template, see if it works now, and if that doesn't work, then I'm just going to fix the login mechanism before the end of the session.
As I said, I give you half an hour. I think it took exactly half an hour. So what did we do? Remember, Cezanne built from scratch the login stuff. Wasn't planned, but she did it. Then you remember we have this user points functionality. She built this challenge and the leaderboard, and we are now publishing it. This means that the code will actually, or the model will be sent to an application server, where the application will be generated. Under the hood, we are working still with traditional code here, but we generate that for you. You don't need to create that yourself. And once it is live, we can go all and test it. We can all go and test it and see how good Cezanne did.
Yeah, so let's see if I can actually get it live. That's challenge number 1. Yeah, we can. I have a input. So this is the moment of truth, guys. It's scary. Well, I did register, but there we go. It's not exactly how I expected it to function, but we got in, and I do seem to have a username. So let's see if I can also associate some points with that username. There we go. I do have points. And let's see if we can go to the leaderboard. I am actually on the leaderboard. So far, I'm not completely mad about what just happened.
So what you saw, the login went a little bit different. That was because we're doing it live from scratch, which wasn't intended. But what you can now do is, I think, on the right, you see this QR code. If you scan that QR code, you can actually test the same application yourself. And maybe the fact that the login goes not perfect is more proof that it was actually done right on the spot today. And you can always do the challenge and see how the application works. And in this case, we're using this as a progressive web application. You can also publish this to the store, but that takes some extra actions. So at least I am testing it now. I don't know about you guys or girls. You see, and indeed, you get in a few screens. I'm going to take the screen. Well, Cezanne, I think, are you going to check the login again?
Look, I see that the URL is also pasted here in front. So, and I think it also will maybe make it, yeah, it did make it to the chat. So if you are not working with your QR code, if you don't have QR code scanner on your mobile phone with Android, it's not a standard functionality. You can utilize the link and try working with it on the web. So that's thank you for sharing that. Now, let me see what happened with this registration thing. If you guys apologize, I'm going to do some debugging in the meantime.
So we can see some live debugging, which I think we should maybe spend 5 minutes and otherwise. I actually did the challenge, so to me it works. So people, you can also go to the URLs in the chat. If you open them on your mobile phone, then of course you get the real mobile experience, but you can also use it from the browser. What you will see is in the login is that it sends you back first to the register screen again, and then clicking on register will log you in. That is not the full desired behavior, so that is what Cezanne is currently looking at.
Yeah, I think that what probably did happen is that I used the wrong login action. So I think that the do login is actually sending you back to the login page, which makes sense to me. And I probably needed to use the user login one instead, because that seems like the one that I should have been using. So let me try that.
In the meantime, I see more people participating in the challenge. I see one person already entered twice, which is indeed a smart way to get more points.
Exactly. That and having multiple people use the same username, because I grouped on that. So technically speaking, if everybody just registers under the same name, that is a great way to elevate your status in the exercise. All right, I'm going to try and fix the user login. I might be breaking it further. It's always an option with developing. And what you're seeing right now is actually a large part of what is part of developing in any technology, I think, which is, a little bit of troubleshooting on the fly and a little bit of debugging. But that does make life, I think, a little bit more interesting. So I'm happy enough to do it. So let me try a different user just to see if it works. And this time I did go forward in one go. So I'm very happy. That makes me happy. So let's see how we're doing with the leaderboard. Look at that. We have Deepak trying to do the username thing, but I clearly was incorrect on the way that I was grouping. But other than that, the whole leaderboard is working. And I think with that, it's time for me to pass back to you, Marlene, to round it up and see how people can learn a little bit more if building things like this is something that they're interested in.
Yes, thank you. So that was a quick demo. There were some, let's say, small errors, as you could see, but that is actually, let's say, that's pretty much real life. And you can see that the app works, and then with some fine tuning, you can actually fix the problems. And Satan fixed one of the problems already on the spot, so that gives a bit of an idea of how development in OutSystems can go. So if I can get my screen to share, then we can go a bit into what's next. Okay, we've seen a bit of development. We're not expecting you that after seeing this demo, you can completely replicate and do this demo tomorrow to all of your friends. However, what I will tell you is some hints that will help you to learn that, so that maybe within 6 months you can do the exact same thing at the same speed, and within actually a week you can already do some pretty nice and fancy demo. So what you see here, well, it's a QR code again, but it's also trying.outsystems.com, and that's where you can try the OutSystems platform. You can actually use a personal edition for free, so then you get that environment that we just saw that Satan was using. And you can just use it as long as you want. If you're not logging in for more than 2 weeks, it will go to sleep. But if you keep logging in, you can just use it for personal usage, and you can try it out and play around as much as you like. So then what? Well, if you want some, let's say, guiding trying out, there's a number of trainings that you can do. So on our website, outsystems.com/learn, you got a lot of trainings, and all of them are freely available. They're web trainings, they're self-paced online trainings, and you can just follow them at your own pace. And when you have done, let's say, the basic trainings, you can also go for a certification. But I think there's also a few interesting options for you to get really some in-person trainings or help. First is the OutSystems Developer School. It's already happening October 17th to 28th. So it's a 10-day course after work hours, 3.5 hours every evening. And after that, you have basically gotten the basics to become an OutSystems developer. So if you're really convinced today and you think, well, this is a good career move for me, you can register for that course. It's for free. There are limited seats, but I mean, just sign up. I think you make a good chance because we have still available seats. And then you can really start your career as an OutSystems developer. Now, suppose that you think, well, I think it's interesting, but I'm not just going to dedicate 10 evenings to it because I either don't have that time or I'm not yet that convinced I want to, let's say, a bit smaller introduction. I can understand. We actually have a session especially for women in tech, which will be on the 20th of October, and it will be from 6 to 9 CET. And that is a 3-hour session where we will get some hands-on experience. So we will start with a bit of an introduction. Then we will do an exercise, which is where you will be doing development that we have completely worked out already, where it will tell you where to start, what to do, what steps to take, so that you can actually follow and create the application yourself. And by the end of that workshop, you should have at least created a mobile app yourself. It has limited seats, but I would just encourage you to register if you're interested, as soon as the registration link will be shared on LinkedIn. Because if there's, let's say, more registrants than we expect, then we can just gather some more trainers and then maybe accommodate for more people if you're interested. So these are 3 things that you can do as a next step if you find OutSystems interesting and you want to learn more. Yeah, I would say all of them are recommended. Of course, we would like to see you in the Women in Tech event, where we will go into the coding itself. Well, is that all? We already mentioned the community. So it's a good place. I mean, if you start with OutSystems, you're never alone. You can find help. It's a very helpful community. It's almost in some places like a group of friends. So be welcome. And of course, in your career paths, you can actually get those certifications and grow from there. So from our side, that was it. So we got some room for questions. Not sure if some questions already came up. So if you have some questions, you can ask them now. They can be about our career. They can be about OutSystems. They can be about the training options. You can put them in the chat and we will see them there. Otherwise, I think I will be giving the word back to Esther. Satan is on mute, at least. There we have Esther.
My apologies. Just wanted to give a small update that, of course, after the demo, the screen templates worked again, so I fixed that as well. So if you want to see what it would have looked like with the screen templates, you can try it again.
So that's some more live experience. You saw, well, we didn't see Satan doing it, but within a few minutes I was talking, she fixed it. So that gives a bit of an impression of how fast it was. And you guys can check it to see if she actually really fixed it, because it still works over the same URL, and you'll get the updated fresh version of the application. So what did we do today? I will give a bit of introduction what OutSystems is, the career possibilities. Satan did a demo, and then we went a bit into the next steps, the trainings that could be relevant. And if there are any questions, please ask them. And
Yes,
Esther,
the moment for everyone to write down a question. If you have, you can put it in the comments, and we're gonna answer it. It can be about for example, career at OutSystems or a career in low code in general. So feel free to type your questions in the comments. And I also wanted to say thank you so much for the workshop. It was really nice also for me to learn something new about like a different platform, because I've never used OutSystem before. And I would also like to say, like, for those who, for example, couldn't follow very much, please don't be scared. It can come off maybe at the beginning as a bit intimidating if you're new to IT or low code in general or programming. Everyone has different ways of learning, and as Marleen and Satan have said already, there are a lot of online free resources. So if this is, for example, the way that you like to learn, and you would like to start a career, it's pretty nice. I really like low code. I can only recommend it as someone without a background in IT per se. So yeah. I don't see any questions. Last moment for someone if they would like to write down a question in the comments. Otherwise, we are going to slowly close the session. So yeah, thank you so much, Marleen and Satan. Is there maybe? I actually have a question. What is like the most fun thing that you have done within the platform?
that's a good question.
It's a hard choice. I think the one that I enjoyed the most was building a small game with a space shooter, and I made a small fish that was flying around and eating food and stuff like that. With OutSystems, so that was a lot of fun. Although that's not, I have to say, the typical use case most of our customers use it for. It was a fun way of experimenting with some new skills.
Well, what I also like is when we, for example, do these workshops is when people that never built an application before just build an application within like an hour, and to see. I mean, that's what we do every quite often, and it usually gives a lot of surprise and empowerment to people. So I like that aspect of it.
And that is actually if you want to, you can join our next session. And that's actually a place where we'll do a very structured, slower build-up session. So what I just did was build a lot in a short amount of time, just to show you what low-code as a tool could bring to you as a skill. But of course, when we're doing the session where you're learning, we're going to go a little bit slower, so it's easier to follow.
Yes, exactly. So soon you will be able to register for that workshop. It's going to happen exactly within 2 weeks, so the 20th of October from 6 p.m. CET. And if there are no more questions, I would really like to thank you, Satan and Marleen, for your time. On behalf of Women in Tech Netherlands, I hope that everyone had fun, that you learned something new, and that you became a bit more motivated maybe to look into possible professional opportunities in low code. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm sure that Satan and Marleen would be very happy to yeah, if you have some questions, reach out to them on LinkedIn as well, for example, where I think we're quite open to that. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. And till the next time.
Thanks everybody for joining. Have a good rest of your evening.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.